We are finally almost there. We have like a week and a half left until Black Ops Cold War releases. We know just about every single player that is on each and every one of our 12 CDL teams. So with that in mind, I thought it's about time to go ahead and give you our preseason rankings heading into Black Ops Cold War. Again, we're about a week and a half away. There's very minor things that can change, one player here or there, but 96% of these rosters are complete. So let's go ahead, let's put them in order. As we go ahead and we take a peek at this graphic, these are the teams we're going to be looking at. We're going to be going in reverse alphabetical order. So from left to right, we're going to start with the Toronto Ultra. We're going to end with the Huntsman, the Guerrillas, the Empire, the FaZe. Let's go through. Let's put them all in order. Let's start with our very first team, the Toronto Ultra. So the Ultra is an interesting situation, right? The roster of Methods, Bance, Cammy, and Kleenex. This is a team that struggled a little bit early on. They were always really good in Search and Destroy throughout the entirety of the Modern Warfare season, that inaugural CDL season. But towards the end, they really started to show up. They were a really tough out at Champs. Of course, we remember what they did against the Atlanta FaZe in their home series, winning their home series overall. So when it comes to the Toronto Ultra, I feel like this is a pretty decent spot for them. I don't think that they're going to be the best team, but I don't think they're going to be one of the worst teams. You see that at the top, we have good, we have better, we have best. Obviously, any team that's in the CDL is going to be good, so I don't want to say like, trash or worse or whatever. These teams are still good. They're just not potentially the best. I do think that the Toronto Ultra are a little bit better than some of the teams that are going to be in that good category. So for now, let's just leave them literally right here in the center of our screen, and we can adjust things as we move on. What might come as a surprise, the next team on our list right here are 100 Thieves. So again, this is all kind of unconfirmed. If you wanted to put them as OGLA, feel free to do that, but it seems like the Optic Gaming team is going to go to Chicago, and there's kind of stuff all over the place. But for now, we'll just say this is that team that was once held under the OGLA branding. So this is Slasher, Kenny, TJ Haley. We know that Draza is signed as their fourth. Many people think that he's going to be a sub, which as of late, a lot of people are speculating that Temp is going to be their fourth. So when it comes to this potential LA Thieves roster, good, better, best, I don't think that they're going to be in that top echelon as of yet. I think the potential is absolutely there, especially seeing what they did towards the end of the year at Champs. So for now, I do think that they're going to be better than a lot of the teams that'll be in the good category. I guess it really comes down to where would you put them inside that better category. I think they've shown, especially if they're living in Texas and this is going to be a partially online league or whatever the format's going to be there, I do think that they're probably a little bit better than the Toronto Ultra. So let's go ahead, let's move them ahead of them for now. We'll see who else kind of falls in this category, but I do think having a steady connection inside of Texas, players moving there, I do think that they have the potential to be a really good team. So we'll put them ahead of Ultra. Next team on our list is the Seattle Surge. So Seattle Surge, this roster of Octane, Looney, Gunless, and Pristini, this is an interesting one, right? Because I feel like there are different parts of this roster that are absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, Octane is one of the top 5, 4, 3 players in the league. Octane is absolutely phenomenal. We haven't seen Looney in at least over a year when it comes to official CDL Pro tournament gameplay. Gunless, we know that he just didn't work out with that Chicago roster. Pristini was kind of the fifth that throw in that route man for the Chicago Huntsman towards the end of the year. So it really does come down to, can they compete with that potential Thieves roster, that potential Ultra roster? I just don't know if they are there yet. It seems like Octane's really good. Gunless, as weird as it is to say, considering how well he played before the Modern Warfare title, I feel like maybe he's kind of middle of the road. Pristini's probably, I don't know. There's no other people on this roster other than Octane that really just jump off the charts. So we're going to put them at the front of the good category. This could change, but we'll see what happens. Next team we're going to talk about is the Subliners, and this is an interesting one for me. I really do feel like this roster, so this roster is Clay, Zuma, Mac, and Hydra. I really do feel like this roster could really imitate what Clay's roster did last year. If you remember Empire at the beginning of the year, they had the highest ceiling that there potentially was in the CDL, and it took them a while to get there. I don't think that this Subliners has quite that high of a ceiling, but I think that they're really close. So for now, I do think that this is a top 5 team, maybe top 4 team. So the way I feel about them is I'm going to put them just a little bit ahead of 100 Thieves. I don't know. I just think that what Clay has the potential to do. We all know Zuma's he's not one of the best SMGs, but he's a really good player. Mac was phenomenal towards the end of the last year, and can Clay take a rookie like Hydra and kind of mold him into the same player that he did with Shotzi towards the end of last year? That's really yet to be seen, but I do think that they have the potential. If you were to say right now, maybe they would be a little bit behind this team in terms of where we're standing right now on November 2nd. But I think it won't take long until they're in that top 5, top 4, somewhere around there. After that, we have the roster of the London Royal Ravens. So Shawnee, Alex, Dylan, and Zero. And if I'm being totally honest with you, I think maybe they can get somewhere around that 6 seed eventually, but there's nobody that really just pops off the charts when it comes to this roster. I think Shawnee had a really good showing towards the end of the last season, especially towards champs, which is probably why he was that one player that they kind of cut their whole roster. They settled on Shawnee and then they just built around him. I do like the fact that they have that all EU roster there. So it seems like they'll be able to get all of Europe kind of behind that roster, but I don't know. We'll see. I think this is a team that can potentially make it if all goes well to that top 6, that top 5, somewhere in there. But I don't think that they can compete with Ultra or that Thieves roster or the Subliner. I don't feel like they're in that tier yet. I don't want to say that they're behind Seattle either. So, you know what? Let's go ahead. Let's put them in literally the same exact column as Seattle. I think that they're very similar in terms of where they're at right now and what their roster can potentially be. In fact, maybe they're a little bit worse because I think with Octane and Gunless and those guys, I think that they can overcome and be a little bit better. So we'll put them just a tiny smidgen behind where we have Seattle, and let's move on now to the Minnesota Rocker. So when it comes to the Rocker, Attached, Major Maniac, Priesta, and Accuracy, these 4, this is a roster I am extremely excited about. I think that Rocker really did hit a home run with their roster. The one thing to worry about is what will they be like in terms of roles, right? Because they do have that main AR in Accuracy. Priesta was a little bit of that flex last year. I mean, Celium was really their flex when they had Simp and Ibizi, so Priesta was kind of being that fast AR type player. But in order for them to be their best, Priesta has to go back to an SMG. He has to be an absolute slayer alongside Attach. We'll see how Major Maniac fits into that flex role. So roles are a little bit all over the place with Minnesota, but I feel like they have what it takes to be in the top 4, potentially top 3, top 5, somewhere in there. So I'm going to take the Minnesota Rocker and I'm going to put them just a little bit ahead of these teams that are in this better category. I think that they do have the potential just because they're proven to be a little bit better than the New York Subliners roster and the Thieves roster. If you're thinking about Thieves, TJ and Temp and Kenny, I mean, maybe they're there. There's a couple question marks there like we talked about earlier when it comes to the Subliners and Hydra. I just feel like the proven vets that have shown that they can really play at the top level, there's a lot of them on this rocker roster. So we're going to go ahead. I think that they're leading that better category. If you disagree, put it down below in the comments. I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. Mutineers, Pharaoh, Havoc, Awakening, and Skies. So when it comes to Mutineers, I don't know. I don't really know where to put this squad overall because at the end of Modern Warfare, Pharaoh, Awakening, Skies, those 3 were playing unbelievably well. Havoc was a little bit down, but he was playing that super fast SMG role. So again, I don't think that they're one of the best teams in the CDL, but I think they're better than a lot of what's on the screen already. I would probably compare them. It's a little bit weird that all these teams are kind of coming off right together, but I would probably put them kind of right in the middle here. I think 100 Thieves, this Subliners roster, this Mutineers roster, I think they're all pretty close. I think that the Rocker roster has a little bit more potential than all of them. but I could really see, like, at the beginning of the year here, which of these 5 teams right in the middle of our screen are going to take that next step, are going to be the first team to be kind of in that top echelon with a couple of the others that we have yet to have named. So let's go ahead. Let's put Florida right here in the middle. You could make an argument for them being just a little bit above New York, maybe a little bit behind the 100 Thieves roster. I get it is possible that I might be sleeping on this Thieves roster a little bit. I mean, these are some super good players. When it comes to Slasher and Kenny and Temp, all 3 of them had phenomenal years last year. I mean, maybe we can move them a little bit forward in this range, and we'll put Florida around here. I don't know. That's the thing. You could talk in circles when it comes to these teams that are in the middle of the screen. But let's go ahead. Let's get moving here. The next team is the Paris Legion. And when it comes to the Paris Legion, as of right now, I think this was as of yesterday, there's some rumors out there that they're signing Scraps and Wuskin. Now, the problem is that how are they going to round out that roster? A lot of the top tier pros really are off the board as of right now. So I feel like just kind of by default here, the fact that they don't have their roster rounded out, let's go ahead, let's put them all the way to the left. But Scraps and Wuskin, if they do go there, that's a really good start for them. I feel like if they have a couple pieces that could join those two and they could really take those two to the next level, I do think that this Paris has potential to be a little bit better than maybe Seattle and London, maybe compete with Toronto. We'll see what happens. But for now, just for the fact that they don't have their entirety of their roster figured out yet, let's put the Legion there. Next team, the Chicago Huntsman, the roster of Scump, Formal, Dashy, and Envoy. I think it would be safe to say this team has more potential or just as much potential as any other team in the league. So if we look at their pieces overall, this is definitely going to go in the best category. But if we look at their roster overall, obviously Envoy has a potential to be the league MVP, right? That's where you start with that team. You feel like Envoy is the future of that Hex kind of environment that he has going on there. And then, of course, we know how well Envoy played throughout the entirety of Modern Warfare. So you'll start with their MVP type candidate and kind of go from there. Formal is a top 3-4 AR in the league. He's definitely one of the best when it comes to main AR. This is a game, when it goes back to 4v4, the importance of an anchoring AR, especially in these respawn game types like Hardpoint, that anchoring AR is super important. So that also gives them a little bit of a leg up. The one tiny question mark, now Scump has been playing really well, but the one tiny question mark is how is Dashy going to come back? Is he going to have those issues that he reportedly had towards the end of Black Ops 4 where he would wake up late, wouldn't show up to scrims, didn't really quite take it seriously? Are those issues going to arise again, or has he completely flipped, changed his mind? Is he going to be there? Is he going to be all in, practicing, giving 1,000,000%? That's yet to be seen. I feel like that's the one question mark. So we're going to take Chicago. We're going to put them in the best category for now, and we will see where they end up. After Chicago, the next in the reverse alphabetical order is the Los Angeles Guerrillas. When it comes to LAG, they have, and this is a little bit interesting because they have a couple different ways that they could go here. So as of right now, officially, their starting lineup is Silly, Apathy, Assault, and Vivid. When it comes to them, Assault played really well basically throughout the entirety of Modern Warfare. He wasn't one of the best, but Assault played really well. Silly did not play great for the Minnesota Rocker. Apathy played okay. Vivid was okay. Vivid played really good in Search and Destroy. But the thing with them is that they have this robust bench of Mental, Exceed, Chino, and Nero. And it'll be interesting to see if Mental, coming over, being a rookie in the CDL, despite everything that Mental has done in other titles, could Mental potentially be that Shotzzy type player? I know that is really tough to say because there aren't many Shotzys out there, but that's where this roster, I don't know, it's hard to see. So for now, I think that there's a ton of question marks. Will Assault play well? Will Vivid play well? Will Chino maybe get a chance? Will Exceed get a chance? I saw Exceed stream a little bit in in World War II scrims alongside Arcees and some others, and Exceed was absolutely popping off. I know it's a different title, and who knows? I mean, there's a ton of question marks there, but I feel like there is some potential here. but there's also a lot of question marks. So let's go ahead. Let's put them a little bit ahead of Paris. Maybe they could stack up with London Royal Ravens somewhere around there. But for now, if you have to put them kind of in an order, I do think that they're part of the good category, probably a little bit better than Paris. But I don't know if they have the upside that London could have, that Seattle could have, definitely when it comes to Toronto and Florida. So we'll put them in the good category for now. We'll see what happens as the year kicks off, which brings us to our last two teams. Second to last, we have the Atlanta FaZe. So when it comes to Atlanta, I mean, guys, Arcides, Abizi, Celium, Simp. This roster is absolutely stacked. If you look through the different teams that are on your screen in front of you, there are question marks, right? When it comes to Minnesota, how will the roles play out? When it comes to New York, what's going to happen with subliners? When it comes to Chicago, how will Dashy come back? That's a lot of pressure on his shoulders. The Thieves roster, who's their fourth? When you look at the Atlanta FaZe roster, Arcides, unbelievable. I mean, he could easily be the best main R. Now that he finally gets to play that role, he could easily be the best main R in the league. Simp and Abizi. If you had to rank SMGs, maybe you put Envoy, maybe you put Shotzzy in there. Those are kind of the top four, it feels like right now. But it doesn't get any better than Simp and Abizi. Simp being able to snipe and S&D. He brings so much. If you're starting a franchise, if I had $100 million and I'm starting a franchise today, my first pick in a fantasy draft is Simp. So, Arcides, potentially best AR. Abizi, super fast, unbelievably talented SMG. Simp, probably the best player overall. Oh, and by the way, you want a flex? You have Celium. I mean, I don't even know what to say about this roster. I don't see how anybody beats them. I know that towards the end of the last year, towards the end of Modern Warfare, Dallas was playing unbelievably, and Dallas ended up winning that. But going into 4v4, I don't see any question marks there whatsoever. I just don't see it. I think Atlanta FaZe right now is the best roster in the CDL, bar none, which brings us to our last team that we're going to cover today, the Dallas Empire, the roster of Shotzzy, Illy, Hugh, and Krim. I will say, the one question mark I have for this team is that I think that they're missing a lot with Clay. I think Clay was that hype man. Clay was their leader. Clay brought the energy. Clay really just made everybody around him better. I feel like Clay was the glue of that team, and them losing Clay, they're losing a lot. Now, I still think Shotzzy's one of the best SMGs. Illy and Hugh are just, I mean, those three are really top-notch players. It doesn't get much better than those three, but I do think Krim having to be that main AR, I don't know how he stacks up in terms of winning rotations and winning those 1v1 AR battles when it comes to RCs and Formal and Octane and Slasher, and I think Krim is good. I don't know if he's great like some of those other guys. So right now, I do think that they're one of the best rosters. I think they're probably a tiny bit behind the Chicago roster, but that could all end up changing. So as we look at this as a whole, we have all of our 12 teams on the board. The best category, it goes from the Atlanta FaZe to the Chicago Huntsman, which might end up being OG Chicago. We didn't even really talk about that. And then the Dallas Empire. I feel like there are 5 teams right in the middle here that could really be shuffled anyway. Maybe Seattle could come into this group. Maybe Toronto Ultra falls out. Who really knows? I feel like London could even move into this better group. And then you have the good group down towards the left. So in the comments down below, do you agree? Would you move anybody? Do you think Dallas is still the best team? What do you think is happening here? In the comments, let me know. I cannot wait for this season to start. If you're new around here, I break down competitive gameplay footage every single day of the season. So I take a scrim, I put a mini map up, I break it down, I show you guys exactly what's happening throughout a map. So if that's something that's interesting to you, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment, leave a like. It really helps out the channel. Thank you guys so much. We will see you in tomorrow's upload.